Hi, everybody, and welcome to our session, The Future of Insights, a conversation with industry trailblazers at Comcast, New York Mets, and Sesame Workshop. I'm Quirk's editor, Joe Ridholm. Thanks so much for joining us. Just a quick housekeeping reminder that you can use the chat tab if you'd like to interact with other attendees during the presentation. Our session today is presented by the Harris Poll. Elizabeth, take it away.
Thank you, Joe. Let's do a round of introductions. Panelists, please tell us about your role and what you're responsible for. Aaron, why don't you go first?
Sure. Hi, I'm Aaron Bisman. I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing at Sesame Workshop, and which is the nonprofit that makes Sesame Street and so much more. And my responsibilities include brand marketing, brand creative, audience development, and our digital products group.
Cindy, why don't you go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Cindy Bean. I head up Insights for Comcast, specifically for the suite of Xfinity products and some long-range planning as well. I've been here for, almost 10 years, which I can't believe I'm almost knocking on double digits door. And it's kind of like, dog years, especially here at Comcast, which is constantly going through change. We joke the C stands for change. I am responsible for insights for our growth organization, which includes product, marketing, sales, as well as pricing and packaging, as well as customer experience. So anything channel related, whether that's our retail and human channels or assisted, which is all .com and app, and just kind of ensuring journeys are smooth and just understanding what's causing our customers or even prospects friction. So never a dull moment, but it's I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.
And I am Craig Swaisgood. I'm at the New York Mets. I've been in baseball for 6 years, the most recent 3 at the Mets specifically. I've been in the private sector, the public sector, and I've been around the world. My charge is data science, data analysis, consumer insights, and so we've got a lot of information on our fans and what they do and when they do it. And so by bringing in consumer insights, we start to understand the why they do it and how we can kind of give them more what they're looking for and less of what they're not looking for, outside of obviously just they would like us to win more. So I'm trying to figure out how we can make the experience as good as possible and make them happy to be Mets fans, even when times aren't as great as other times.
Thanks, Craig. Justin?
I'm Justin Pincus, and I lead Quest Brand, which is the Harris Poll's AI-powered SaaS platform for real-time brand intelligence across the globe. And I'll kick it over to you, Elizabeth.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Roberts. Excited to be here. I lead Quest IC, focused on insights communities. And we've got a great group of panelists. And our first question is about strategic influence. And we'd love to learn about your hero stories. How are your teams guiding the organization with insight? Cindy, tell us about insight at Comcast and how your team is guiding.
Great. Thank you. So I'm hoping I'm probably in I don't want to say good company with this group, but probably comfortable company in that if anyone's looking at the stock price for Comcast lately, you'll be wondering, does consumer insights exist at Comcast? Because it's like we're kind of hitting a bit of I would say a bit of a lull, as you can imagine. And I think that kind of goes with just the life cycle of many of these big organizations, depending on leadership. And again, I've been here long enough to see what great looks like when leaders are really leaning into understanding an outside-in perspective, when they're looking to incorporate the consumer perspective or even trying to solve for pain points in an upfront strategic way, and then how that follows through for operations. I've also been here long enough, which is probably even the last 5 years, where leadership changes have been more of a let's focus on today and kind of learn from yesterday kind of point of view. And that has led to many, more internal focused decisions of pricing and packaging, or even, I would say quick Band-Aids to help get even stakeholders aligned, as well as the street focused on how do we kind of just end the quarter. As you can imagine, given the competitive environment we're in, especially for, internet, as well as streaming, it's like, it feels like because we've been internal focused, we kind of lost a bit of what's happening outside. And of course, the category has gone on without us. So here we are. We have a new COO who was just recently announced as our new CEO. And he's really been taking a dramatic, I would say, 180 from his COO hat into how do we bring more of the outside in? And he's been asking those provocative questions of what's going on with our customer experience and how did we get to, I would say less of a trustworthy brand, and why are we having so many issues with pricing and packaging? And so if anything, with those questions, as you can imagine, my team has pretty much had a spotlight on it. And it's kind of a great time to be in insights or analytics at Comcast because they are asking all the right questions. And my gosh, we've been tracking this forever. And so the good thing is we've got tons of answers. So with this new, I would say, leadership, it's also been bringing in a lot of fresh perspectives and fresh leaders, which has kind of changed the dynamic of our leadership team and also the questions that we've been asked. So it's been fun to package up learnings in a way that's really tight story to our executives. And here's what's been happening, but also they're looking at us to provide a point of view. And we're set in, and I guess how we're structured to bring this kind of unbiased point of view. It's not, we're not anchored in a brand team or another business that is kind of packaging a perspective of their own. It's more, here's the voice of the customer and here's what's happening. A specific example of this is we've recently launched Price Lock, which is like a 5-year or a 1-year price guarantee. So I think people have been telling this for a long time. Finally, leaders are like, let's do it. And so far, we've also started seeing retention start to solidify a little bit more, and our brand trust starting to build slowly. As you can tell, it's kind of like a lag metric. But I think, I call it like a drip on a rock. My team has been coming to the table with, here's the words that work. Here's how we need to clean up our website. Here's, how our sales folks maybe need a little bit more training in saying these things. And it's really, the momentum is just building, and it's just building trust in our team. And they're just looking for more of it. So it's I don't know, I'm excited for the next couple of months and hopefully the trajectory of the next couple of years here.
Thanks, Cindy. Exciting time to be in Insights. I love how you're packaging up and guiding the organization with your point of view. Craig, would love to hear from you how you're guiding the organization, the Mets.
Yeah, so Cindy just stole all of my talking points. It's a lot of the same stuff that she mentioned.
That's what we do as Phillies fans over here, Craig.
Touche. But we've also had some organizational shifts at the leadership level since Steve Cohen bought the team a few years ago. And one of the things that we do, similar to Cindy, is like we just keep showing up. And when people say, what can we do to get more fans in here? What can we do to have the current fans come more frequently to the stadium? We have to go and find those answers. And my team is very good at kind of coming up with a statistical model. But again, kind of I mentioned in the intro, like we have to understand why. Like, why is Cindy going to a second, I guess I'll say Phillies game or something. But and so whether it's concessions, whether it's our staffing, whether it's the ticket purchase flow, we want to understand what people's pain points are, right? Queens isn't exactly downtown Manhattan, so we have to understand the transportation. There's a lot of different people with a lot of different skill sets that work on the business side of the baseball team. And some of them are very kind of statistically oriented, but most of them aren't, right? Some of them just want to make sure that the people that come in to Citi Field are having a good time, getting their concessions in a timely manner, or getting the right things at the retail store. And so similar to what Cindy said, we have to show up to all of these meetings prepared. We have to understand why. We have to kind of then say, those are, we can answer 7 of your questions. We can't answer the other 30. Let me go and figure that out. And so one of the things that we did with Harris Poll is that we created this kind of megaphone for a small group of super fans, right? We didn't intend for it to be super fans, but people who are willing to give us their opinion 5 or 6 times a week or a month tend to be biased towards super fans. And so it's just an opportunity for us to have an ongoing conversation. And we supplement that with, like I said, the behavioral data that we have in our data warehouse. And we supplement that with Qualtrics surveys or just general surveys that go out to kind of our full fan base to get that full understanding. But it's been a huge unlock. And one of the reasons we know it's been an unlock is one, departments, we no longer have to be overly proactive to them. They're being proactive and coming to us, and they're saying, hey, that was really good, but I have more questions. And so just knowing that they want us at the table as opposed to kind of being scared that we're going to come to the table and blow up their spot is kind of an indication that what we're doing is helping them move the business forward. And concessions is a perfect example where the more your stadium is full, the longer the lines can get. And so it's easy to say, and I've been guilty of this, to say, just open up more concession stands. Well, we have a physical footprint, and opening up an additional concession stands might not be the easiest thing. So what can we do that would allow people to still enjoy their beer, their hot dog, their Shake Shack burger? And our fans told us that's one of the reasons that they don't always love coming to the stadium. And so there are a lot of very small things we can do to get those lines moving faster. And we've been very proud that Major League Baseball does a ranking based on fan surveys of how well you're doing in your fans' eyes. And concessions is something that you actually increased from kind of bottom of the league to top of the league in the past year. And part of that was because we realized exactly where their pain points were. And so kind of one use case, but we can talk about concessions. We can talk about the ticket purchase flow. We can talk about kind of how they're engaging with us online. And the reason we can talk about that is because our consumer insights group has done research on every single one of those components.
Love it. Thank you, Craig. Exciting to hear your stakeholders lean in and want to ask more and have you all dig in to understand the whys to help really accentuate and build that fandom experience. Aaron, over to you. We'd love to hear how you are helping guide the organization forward.
Sure. So, Sesame Workshop was founded as a children's television workshop in 1969. And research and insights were baked into our model from day one. So, how did we even come up with the idea of Sesame Street? It was researchers and academics at a table with television producers and creatives. And that's continued in the model of our show for 56 years. That said, the ways we market, right, and promote, think about bringing people to the show, promoting the various expressions we have off show, and we are a nonprofit, so we also have to raise money from partners, funders, and individuals, right? Insights has not always fueled in the same way all of those activities. And so we've been doing a lot of work over the past years to ensure that audience wants and needs, right? The audience perspective leads all of our marketing efforts. And it's really been a transformation into an audience first operation on the marketing side. So research and insights is a peer team to marketing. I would say we are definitely power users. We like to ask the questions. We want to know as much as possible without losing any of the magic and creativity of Muppets and the joy of all of our furry friends. But we want to bring that into conversation with as much data and information as possible. I'm a really big believer that, I don't want the tree falling in the woods with no one hearing it. There's no value there. So we're power users of insights, and we really want to be communicators, internally around our teams to make sure that this information gets shared. So, a concrete example, as we think about how we just launched last week, season 56 on both Netflix and PBS Kids. Really excited about this launch. We've also built some ancillary experiences on Roblox, right? And really thinking about a multi-platform experience. How do we reach preschool children and their parents today, right? One of our answers is in the content, right? We are aware through our research and insights of the kinds of topics that parents struggle with today. Some they always have: literacy and numeracy, getting kids ready for school. Others really around kindness and social emotional learning, as well as digital well-being, helping kids and families learn how to be, in our digital world today. All that said, one of our insights is actually that what parents need most and first and foremost is a show they feel comfortable with their child watching alone, right? So what do we do with an insight like that says it's not about the content, or it's not about the content first? We know both things can be true, but when I think about how do I get a parent to our show first and foremost, I need to be aware of that kind of concrete insight. What drives that immediate, quick decision making? So that's one small example, but we are a team that leads from curiosity. and it's something we really encourage and support. And our curiosity constantly leads us to audience insights and really helping to inform this work. And we want to make sure it's constantly iterative, right? We are believers in the idea that what worked yesterday is not guaranteed to work tomorrow. We shouldn't even assume it will work tomorrow. And so it's insights that really drive our constant innovation as we want to make sure that we're serving today's children and families.
Thank you, Aaron. We would be remiss to not address the hot button topic that is now addressed at most conferences, which is artificial intelligence. And this is a perception meets reality sort of a question, right? You're at these conferences and COOs, C-suite, the board, the street, they're all really interested in how in the business world we're integrating artificial intelligence into our daily lives. However, this technology is still incredibly nascent, so I don't want to take the fully positive spin to this question. So I'm going to start it with an agree or disagree statement. And that agree or disagree statement is this. AI still hasn't fundamentally changed the way we work in insights, at least not in the way many expected back in 2024. If we believed LinkedIn, AI already runs every insights team. What's the truth inside your organization? What's real and what's rhetoric? And I think a lot of folks in the audience are going to be incredibly curious to hear your feedback on this, especially when they scroll their LinkedIn feeds every day. And there might be misnomers about how this new technology is being integrated and if we're all the way there yet. So I'm going to pass this over to Craig first, followed by Aaron, and then Cindy to tackle this big question, but with just a little bit of a different twist.
Yeah, I mean, the simple answer is I agree. It has not fundamentally changed it. I think you're right. Everybody talks about it. I was working in emerging tech when Sam Altman changed the world and promised everybody that everything was going to be available and with no problems. There are problems. There's problems in application, implementation. It has certainly enabled certain components in my estimation of consumer insights, right? I think it's a good brainstorming partner. I think it can summarize open text. There's certain value in that, right? Like I don't know when the word cloud was created, but it's kind of like a word cloud on steroids. So there is value in there, but the idea that it's fundamentally changed it or that people like us are no longer necessary or won't be necessary in the near-term future, it's just not true. And I've mentioned previously, it's like MIT said that 95% of AI pilots don't work. HBR is talking about this. So I think a lot of executives are afraid that they're going to be missing out, right? They got that little FOMO, like, oh, we're the only company not fully realized when it comes to AI. They're not the only company. Most companies have not fully realized AI because AI hasn't been fully realized. And so it's a long-winded way of saying, like, it's a supplement. People who can use it well can probably be better at their jobs. They do have that kind of brainstorming partner. They do have the ability to edit some of their work or come up with summaries a little bit quicker, and they can prepare some type of analysis for a department a little bit faster. But has it fundamentally changed the game? Has it even changed it in what we would all agree to as a meaningful way? No, not close. Doesn't mean that it's not going to get there in 18 to 24 months. I don't have my crystal ball handy, but I certainly don't think that LinkedIn and the feeds that we see are being fully transparent and honest about kind of what is current state.
Yeah, there is a little gap between perception and reality now. We all know how incredible the technology is going to be in the future, but I especially think as we move from Aaron and then to Cindy, talking about iterating and experimenting with this technology and not necessarily seeing it as something that's accelerated. The ability for our teams, at least in the insights world, to move forward. And then for each of you too, I'd be interested just to understand the pressure coming down from the top in terms of how you need to start adopting and integrating this technology. But we'll kick it over to Aaron at Sesame Workshop to tackle this one.
Yeah, well, first I just echo everything Craig said. It's not a meaningful part of our insights work. I think we are using it in some ways, really around aggregating, summarizing, and organizing data, right? And I think we have with 5 generations of fans and a variety of data streams some that are product and conversion related, and some that are behavioral or around our educational efficacy. We feel the need to unite and merge multiple data sets in ways that we haven't before. So we're curious, I think, how AI might help us with that. I don't think we have the answers yet. In terms of pressure from above, I would say there is pressure to be experiment, not pressure to do something necessarily, but yeah, a fear of being left behind. Frankly, that's a pressure I appreciate. So for us, that is not just about insights, right? That is thinking in every stream. And again, we are a nonprofit. The only street we think about is our own in that framing. And we think about our ethical responsibilities, right, as a very particular type of brand and what we represent for so much of the US as well as around the world. The moves we make in this space will be seen and judged, and we want to move really carefully. So we want to find efficiencies that make sense. We want to learn faster, right? Grow where we can through these tools. And it's really early days. We're really just at that initial experimentation. We're building out frameworks for ourselves. So it's new. It's not doing nearly as much as some have promised. But we also, it's not like therefore it won't be meaningful, right? We're aware it could still be coming, and we want to be prepared.
And I think back in 2024, maybe some of us were expecting that growth curve to be more exponential, right? And what we could do with this year might have accelerated. But yeah, totally agree with that. And really interesting comment too is someone, given everyone here is in the insights world, they're interested in insights doing some debunking of AI hype. So that might be a little bit funny. But Cindy, over to you. Comcast, absolutely massive organization. Obviously, AI is super important part of your remit, especially down from senior leadership to yourself. How do you feel about that agree-disagree statement?
Yeah, I think I agree with Craig and Aaron. Everything you said, we're feeling it probably at the same level. My team is inside of the enterprise business intelligence team, which has modeling, and there's a whole team just focused on AI, which is really building out models that help us predict, next best action for a lot of our customers or even prospects if they call or even, go on a website. So there's a lot of really, really interesting future state ideas, but we're just not there yet with even some of the inputs and even some of the stability of the inputs. So I think the vision's there, which is great, and we need to keep, working towards that vision. But from specifically a day-to-day insight standpoint, from my end, we have, I would say, at any given point, I've actually dedicated a few folks on my team to vet some of these AI tools alongside some of the more human aspects of research. So we've got some message testing that we're doing with humans and target audiences, but then trying to replicate that on the AI side with some of these tools just to see, is it actually looking as if you couldn't tell, who did the output? And so far, there's been a lot of head scratcher moments of let's dig into what happened here that took this AI piece on a completely different path. So you probably heard there's these synthetic twins, and we just refreshed our consumer segmentation attitudinally. So our technology team is anxious to build their own, we call it digital twins, which again, idea is fantastic to be able to, see some messaging or even product ideas that we'd be able to go online and get some feedback on what's working and what's not. But the reality is, the upkeep to that and the constantly having to feed it with, not only our own, up-to-date research, but everything else that's impacting, our consumers, customers from even a non-category standpoint that's, changing perceptions is just something we're not there yet. So I think the idea is there, and I think it's safe to say, especially to our teams, that you're not getting replaced by bots, yet. But I think there are definitely ways that we've incorporated, some quick synthesis, or even we were involved in a workshop last week that had some more farther out ideas, and we used some AI to just quickly assess, okay, do we have evidence for, just macro trends that could help, shape the starting point of these ideas. So I think that's working great, but so far, not the promise of, the LinkedIn mothership, if you will.
I think that's a helpful perception versus reality check, especially when it sits with insights teams that vet these things so well, right? And push data all the way to the highest levels of an organization. So to understand that you're not fully adopting these tools, taking them at face value, testing, iterating, making sure that this is going to work for your teams. That's the point that we seem to be at least within these major enterprise marketing departments that you're all within. And so the next question, we'll try to go lightning round. We have 4 questions. We're on question 3, 5 minutes left. So maybe lightning round. It's going to start with Aaron, then go to Cindy and Craig. Just the future of tracking, right? The world of technology that we live in today kind of allows us to gather and ascertain data and information a lot faster. So as you're bringing in this data in real time or weekly or monthly, how are you quantifying for your organizations, which are all quite different from one another, the metrics that really matter, right? For the New York Mets, it might be engagement, fandom, etc. Some of these examples could be loyalty, reputation, emotional pull. As you look into the future, what's the next frontier in measuring these things? How do you determine the right KPIs to focus on for your organization? Is that similar, kind of an ever-evolving workflow? Let's start with Aaron in terms of how are you at Sesame Workshop quantifying what really matters for your organization?
Sure. Well, first, I'll say it is definitely always evolving. With 5 generations of fans, but actually a very narrow target for our core content of 2 to 5-year-olds, right? Brand equity is important, but it is not the only metric we have to look at. So we think about the engagement metrics we can see, particularly through online platforms. We think about formative research that goes into the content and the testing around engagement and educational efficacy. And we think the future is going to be some kind of custom metric because we need to really be able to mix a variety between equity and engagement. Again, coming from how people talk about anyone we ask says they know Sesame Street. We have 99% brand awareness in the US. Makes us feel really, really great. It's a very different question when you ask, when's the last time you watched the show or purchased a product, right? Or engaged with us. So relevance is really, really important, but then getting from relevance to engagement is also different. So I would say we have a lot of pieces of that puzzle, and the future is tying them together.
That's great. I think relevance is kind of a theme, just in general. When it comes to, I would say, tracking, we are constantly keeping a pulse on what's kind of most important in delivering services and experiences to our customers. And I think we know that there are 3 key, I would say, umbrella drivers that we need to really focus on. And one's like reliability. And ironically, reliability means a lot of things. It's our connectivity services, but then it's also, being dependable, following through on your word, saying and delivering what you say you're going to deliver, which then, flows into price value. If, is my price rising all the time? Are there hidden fees? Are there, is it confusion, even in my bill, which is a big one for us. And then, as you can imagine, that also ladders into trust. Are you a brand I trust, and ultimately one that I want to be a part of? So it's like underneath each of those are, I would say a lot of ways you could pull it back and track. And I think we have, of course, our NPS and our NPS system, which we're actively kind of unpacking to understand, is that the right system to continue with, or do we simplify it? And then there's brand health, which, there's a correlation there. But ultimately, as we're kind of making sure that we're kind of getting feedback from all of our customers to make sure that that's a representative customer base. It's thinking about those big rocks, but then also, are we meeting customers where they are in the channels that they are? So it's constant evolution, but always trying to focus on the big important things.
And we'll kick it to Craig. A fascinating question could have been also on how do you determine the metrics that don't matter. But Craig, really quickly over to you before we pop off here.
Yeah, so the Mets are interesting, similar to what Aaron said. Like, we don't have an awareness problem. People kind of know there's only 30 MLB teams. And so awareness isn't really our issue. And one of our issues, though, in terms of brand, is that we let our fans down. We break their heart a lot, right? And so some of our harshest critics are our 20-year season ticket members. And so it's like they love us, but they also get really frustrated and angry at us. So what we do in terms of measuring our brand is we treat it like a kind of balanced scorecard, right? We have all of the survey and market research, and we look at that, and that's about 40% of our kind of brand tracker. And then the remaining comes from foot traffic on sites or at Citi Field and a lot of other indicators. So we kind of roll up about 12 different metrics into a brand health tracker to understand kind of how people are thinking about us, whether they're into us, whether they want to come to a game this year. Because if we just ask our harshest critics, I mean, as Philly fans, you guys know sometimes your fans don't always treat your team as well as maybe you should, given your love for them. Same thing is true of a lot of teams, right? Sometimes they hate on us, but it's like a sibling rivalry. Like, they can talk bad about us, but no Phillies fan ever talk bad about us. And so brand is a little bit tough, which is why we use that balanced scorecard method.
Well, I think we've run out of time. I don't know, Elizabeth, if you want to, thanks everybody out there, but if you want to thank your panelists, and then we can kind of wrap up here.
Thanks, everyone. It was wonderful having your perspective on what's the truth, what's the future of insights. So great to have you here. And thanks, everyone, for showing up and listening. Have a good
Appreciate it,
day.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.